Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope all of you can hear me. My name is Anusha Stephen from the Talking Canvas. I'll tell you a little bit about myself before I go into what Talking Canvas is all about. I have, about 10 plus years in corporate experience. So I was working with data consultancy services, and then on I went to Wipro Technologies, and I was part of the human resources team. So after about 10 years of working in the corporate world, I really wanted to explore something that I wanted to do on my own. And, art was something that I loved doing. When I say I love doing, what I mean is as a young child, I was always into art, creating things, trying to, use everything around the house to make stuff. And that's how we grew up, right? There was no technology that much back then. So we kind of used all of this to express ourselves, and I think that's what got me through my childhood to a large extent. Then of course, you move into sports and different things as you grow, and art got sidelined to a large extent. However, when I was in an international stint with uh, TCS, and when I was at Singapore, I started getting back into art. And the minute got back into art, it was like this barrier had kind of got shattered to a large extent, right, in my mind. So my creativity started flowing a lot more. I was able to think more clearly at work. I was sort of able to remain more calmer at work. And that's when it got to me that this is something that I'm really, this is what my passion is all about, to really, spend time doing this. So I did that for quite a bit on the side, along with doing my work. I, learned a little bit of art. I did some practice sessions myself, and I really loved it. And then I wanted to pursue something in art, and I wanted to start a business that really enables people, inspires people towards art. So that got me thinking, and I decided to register myself for a program with IIM Bangalore. It was a startup course. I did the course and I really enjoyed it. Loved the other women who were with me on this course, and the kind of things they were thinking about. It was a good amount of brainstorming. So that's when the idea of Talking Canvas was born. So initially, the idea was just to teach art. However, thinking about it, we said instead of teaching art, it's not just about enhancing people's understanding of art and creativity, but how do you inspire the next generation, right? Because with my corporate experience, I'd seen that creativity was something that was lacking in a lot of people at work. So we used to have programs on how to better creativity and all of that. And I said, why don't we, start with young kids? Because, kids up to 5 years of age are naturally creative, right? You don't need to really teach them that much or anything. They are born creative. But what happens is that we set, certain guidelines. The way the environment is after that, it sort of starts molding them in one direction. And then the whole concept of creativity dies down because of the, unsupportive environment that we provide, the possibly the rigorous focus on education alone, right? When I say education, what I mean is just about science, math, all of that side of things that we sort of look at. Of course, that's important. No one denies that. But without having, the artistic side of it, without really looking at it, it becomes possibly a bit difficult to focus on just one aspect. So I think it's very, very important to look at art more holistically. So that's when we said, why don't we look at a company which can not only enhance creativity, but inspire kids to be more creative, right? So how do we do that? What we do is we use kids' drawings as designs on products. So we want kids to know that this is what's happening with their art. End of the day, it doesn't just sit at home. It could go places. People could be buying their art. So it's a design version of art, right? What happens to art is becomes design and it goes places. So that's what we wanted to showcase to kids, young kids. So as a brand, the Talking Canvas uses kids drawing. So we are perhaps the only designed by kids brand out there. So I just have a couple of things to show you as samples before I go ahead, so you understand. So this is, a really sweet drawing made by a little kid called Adyashri. So you can see the drawing and you can see the design that we've made out of it. It's really perfect summer dress. So right now we do only t-shirts. However, we do intend to scale it to multiple other products. And we always inspire the child by putting the name down there. Yeah, you can see the name of the child on the product. So the child parent can see that the design is going places and it inspires them further to continue on that journey. We also have another product which is to enhance creativity where kids can paint their own t-shirt. So you can see that. Yeah, Wear My Art it's called. And they can actually paint their own t-shirt and flaunt it. That's what the idea is. It comes with a certain guideline like this, but it's up to them how they really explore themselves. These are the products we have at the moment, but as a brand, we are about 2 years old now. The intent is to really scale it with multiple do-it-yourself products where kids can really push their imagination and creativity, and they're engaged during that time, right? That's another objective of it, and also to showcase their art on as many products as possible. And so that's all about the Talking Canvas. You can check us out at www.thetalkingcanvas.com. Going into why is art so important, right? So that's what the topic is about. And as parents, it's very important for us to know that it's not just about, becoming an artist, right? What does art do? It's not just about becoming an artist. That's definitely not why art is important. Art is important because it really, really is one of the ways to increase creativity, improve creativity. Creativity can, of course, be improved in many different ways, but art is one of the ways to do it. And it's a very important way to do it, right? Because when you talk about creativity, it's all about putting people in different, giving the person experiences, right? Different experiences which makes their mind expand. So that's the idea of it. So it could be sports, it could be art, it could be, just anything else, experiments that they do. All of that, of course, makes them creative. However, art is very important because it sort of gives you that focus, right? Like it makes a child sort of calm, that sense of expression that comes with it. So the child thinks of how do I express myself through this, right? And it's a very subconscious way of handling. It's not really something you need to consciously develop. If you leave a child with just crayons and a paper, you know that they will do something out of it. And even that time that they get with it is very important because it's a time when they sit and they think, what do I want to do, right? So if there is an imagination in their mind, they want to imagine what it is. They imagine what it is, then they think about how do I bring it out on paper? How do I show it on paper? And that is the process of creativity through art, right? So that's very important. And the other thing is that it really improves visualization. So why is visualization so important again, right? If you notice, a lot of adults, if you ask them, can you just do this, particular process at work possibly, right? You tell people, can you just break this process and really see how this goes? A lot of people are unable to do it because they're not able to really visualize the whole process. They're not able to see the bigger picture and really connect the dots. So therefore, it's very important for young kids itself, right? Like for example, even if you look at a pen or a sketch pen, you just ask them, what all is in the sketch pen, right? Just visualize it inside the sketch pen, what is there, and just draw it out. Those are things that form parts of a sketch pen or a part of a pen or whatever that goes together, and it becomes a product. It becomes a whole sketch pen or a pen. So it becomes very important for them to visualize that everything has everything breaks down, right? So art is a very good way to do it. So I can give you an example, like when your child is drawing a tree, right? It's not just about, okay, this is the way to draw a tree, because we've been so used to drawing a tree. From when we were kids, we teach the kids the same way, right? We say that, okay, there's a trunk and then the leaves around it, it's like a whole branch around it, right? However, if you really look, everything can be broken into shapes. So the trunk can be like a rectangle, it could be a circular thing on top, and then you can sort of create things around it. Right? So as young kids sort of learn to develop this, that anything can be broken into shapes and they can really pull it together, it becomes very exciting for them, right? The other thing is that it really improves decision making. So when I say decision making, what I mean is that at any given point they're deciding things in their mind, right? Whether should I use this color, should I use that color, should I draw it this way, should I do it that way? So all of that is really helping them with the whole process of decision making, right? And sometimes they ask you, should I do this or that, whatever, and you may give them inputs. But most often they will think of it themselves, they'll do it. And it's good for you to encourage that as well. And of course, I spoke about focus. It gives them the time to really sit and do something. It makes them focus on a particular activity, which gives a result, right? So it's always good to get them to complete something. Of course, you need to really play to their mood and all of that, but it's always good to let them complete it. Make them, sort of encourage them to complete it, so they know that whatever they start, there is a outcome to it. There is some kind of focus that comes through that whole process, right? And the last one is, of course, that sense of ownership, sense of knowing that this is what I have made. This is my achievement in this amount of time, right? So a lot of times when you're just watching videos and stuff, it's exciting at that moment, but at the end of it, what really is the result? Possibly not much. However, if you're doing this, there is a result at the end of it. There is an outcome associated with it while they're learning a string of things. So, therefore, it's important that you sort of encourage kids to become more and more involved in art, and it's very gender neutral, right? It's not about, I've heard a lot of parents tell me that girls like doing this, boys don't like art, or sometimes it's these prejudices that we have inside of us. So just encourage, whether it's a boy or girl, doesn't really matter. Let them explore themselves, create things, right? That's what creativity is about. It's about imagining, visualizing, and actually creating something. So it's very simple ways to do it. So look at things which are, in and around the house. Let them use it to create something, and just help them think as to what can they create out of it, right? So even if you follow us on the Talking Canvas social media handles, you will see a lot of content out there, and we don't really believe in giving the exact steps on how to do something or whatever. So we just put out videos which we think, sort of gives a guidance, right? Guide you to do something, whereas we want the child to be able to sort of explore themselves and come up with it themselves. So I mean, just giving you an example, right? You, all of you will possibly definitely know Albert Einstein, right? So this is a true fact, actually. So Einstein is someone, we all know is so very strong with, he's a scientist. He's so strong on the STEM side of things, right? Which is on the science, engineering, math, all of that. So he's so strong in that area. However, he used to go, every time he's stuck, he would just go and draw, and he would do it for hours as well, right? I mean, that was his way of calming himself, to really take the pressure off, and to also let him think. It was his thinking process, to really take time off and draw, right? Draw and sketch or whatever that is. He would do it, and then he would come back and work. So another point that I want to make is simply that creativity is a multidisciplinary skill. So it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a teacher, you're a I don't know, like an artist, whatever you are, you need creativity, whatever the discipline you're going into, and it is a very very important 21st century skill. So a few years back, if you look at the top skills that's required for a leadership role in any company, it used to be possibly how do you decision making and people management, all of that. Those were the top skills, and creativity and all of that was, I think, number 9, number 10 skill, whatever. However, in today's age, it's already moved up to number three skill, right? So it's a very important skill, which means for any sort of professionals to grow. So even as a parent, most of you may be holding jobs in corporates, all of that, right? So creativity is a very, very important skill from that perspective as well. And if you really look at it in the future, so in the next few years, I'm sure, because we're in a very uncertain world, right? So you need people who can think differently and come up with things, and that's what art does to you. I mean, creativity is required, and art sort of helps you with it. It's a very, very powerful vehicle to sort of become creative, right? So that's where that's why it's so important. And as the world becomes faster, right? Because everything is faster, quicker, all of that. And even now, we're only talking about, are there enough problems out there to solve? Or, what do we do as companies? How are we trying to, help with the problems that the world has? All of that. Now, you need thinkers. You need thinkers to really do the job, come up and say, this is what I think is the solution. And those solutions can only develop if more and more people can think differently, right? And thinking out of the box, as you know, is one of the very, very important things that comes out of creativity. So therefore, it's very important for whether you're parent or child to really involve yourself and look at art differently henceforth. Don't just look at it as a hobby, or it's a life skill, and it's an important life skill. It's not just a hobby anymore. And let's look at what are the things that possibly one can do, right? Like, for example, very young kids, toddlers and stuff, they're very tactile. So it's about touch, feel, all of them. And like I already said, they're very creative in any case. So it's about really helping them connect and just do more of what they're good at doing. So you'll see that some of them will come up with really crazy things, right? Like the sky might be black, or I don't know. They come up with also. It's just the way they imagine things and the way they're able to express it. So just let them do that, right? Let them just involve themselves and do that. A lot of times, we restricted by saying do it this way. Just color in between these lines, all of that. Again, it's. I mean, there are things coloring in teaches you, of course, which is to stay within the boundary and all of that. However, it may limit. So don't only make your child do that part of it. There are a lot of things that you can do to sort of let them uh, you know look at things around the house, right? Whatever it is, squares. What is a square? You can see something in the kitchen that's a bit of a square. Tell them this is a square. Draw a square. Sort of correlated, and it makes it really fun for them. And give them different things to touch and feel. Right. So you can substitute your dals and whatever at home as sand, or like let them play with things that are there. You don't really need to invest too much money in, not about. So that's why if you see a lot of kids in the more rural areas, maybe all the more creative, because they use all sorts of things in the, which is available to them, and they really get their hands dirty. Like, I don't mean go and put hand in mud, but what I mean is they really do things. They put things together and they make their own games. They do play acting, role playing with each other. They they come together and do things. So all that is very important for young kids, right? For them to continue on that journey of creativity. You'll also see that it's also good for you to sort of encourage kids to work together. So, I mean, of course, now it's about social distancing, but once we're out of all of this, you can sort of encourage kids to come together and sit together and do things. Let them, work on one art together. How do they really work on it? How do they do the sticking? And you can use paper, whatever, to stick things together, make a particular shape, do a lot of different interesting things that way. And there's enough content out there to really help you. Yeah, so that's why art is so important. And now I can perhaps answer some of your questions. Just one moment, I'll just refresh. Yeah. So there is a question on, I'll just read out the person's name. Sonam has asked a question which is, we know that art helps parent and child bonding a lot. So is there any specific thing you would recommend for toddlers? Yeah. Of course, it helps to bond very much. But like I told you, some of these other things, it's not only the bonding, it's so much beyond that, right? So just think about those things as well. And for toddlers, you can do tons of things. As in, like I was saying, like you can create things out of small things at home. So, for example, you can use any sort of pulses at home to sort of count, right? Even let them put it into a bottle, or just drop it in. The sound makes it exciting for them, so you can make them do that. You can make them just draw alphabets using any of these things at home. So maybe pulses or whatever, just make them follow the line on it and make them do stuff. So it could be making circles, making squares, making triangles. All of that they can do using this, right? And some of the other exciting activities that you can do with kids, like both parents, is which we as a family love, is playing Pictionary, right? So it's a very very fun thing. So you can ask your child. You can make chits and put in things that are very simple and available at home, right? Like what they know. So, for example, when I used to play this with my niece, I would ask her to draw a toothbrush, and she would draw a toothbrush, from her imagination, what a toothbrush looks like. So these are very fun games that you can play with kids, and they really get excited, and they're able to sort of think and draw. So that's really fun to do. And of course, the younger the child, it won't be very clear all of that, but that's okay, because you're just having fun and you're sort of, you know, going through that whole process. Thank you, Sonal. Let me just look at the next one. My 6-year-old loves painting and art and craft works. How can I encourage my younger one, 3 years to in early childhood? Madhavi, yeah. So Madhavi, like I was saying, in fact, the younger ones are quite creative as it is. So just let them explore with different materials that are there. Let them just just play. Play is what will really help them, and challenge them a little bit by using things around and asking, now what can you do with this, right? So and they will come up with things, and that's one of the ways that you can do that. Yeah. Thank you. um, Madhavi again has asked, please suggest some artistic activities for my 6-year-old child. Yeah, so there are tons of activities that you can try, with different materials that's available, and it's good to explore different materials out there. So you can reuse some of the day-to-day things like newspaper, or how do you use newspaper to make, say, leaves, or anything like that. So we just put out something where you can use newspaper, you can use toilet rolls to create houses. Like they like construction, especially boys, right? Like they like constructing things, and a lot of girls like it too. So sorry, nothing to do with the bias about it, but so if your child likes it, likes to create things, construct things, just make them construct a, um, an aquarium, maybe with cardboard box, right? You can just make it like look like an aquarium, cut out the shape of fish, put it inside it, it becomes an aquarium. You can do stuff like that, or you can make jewelry, right? With simple things, you can make jewelry, you can do beaded work, all of that. You can that also sort of, I mean, you have to be careful on how they use it, of course. You can try out making houses with cardboard boxes or toilet paper rolls, right? So there are tons of activities that way that you can really experiment with, even with fabric. In fact, now you can possibly figure out how can you use fabric available at home and make a mask, right? Because everyone's supposed to be keeping themselves safe and wearing a mask, all of that. So you can sit together and do these kind of activities. And if you're looking at activities which they can do on their own without too much of your support or involvement, You can take a particular project and just tell them that use these materials and come up with something, and you will be surprised at what they come up with. So let me give you an example. Like for example, put out a straw, an eraser, a pencil, maybe sellotape, things like that. Random things that you have in the house. You put it together and say, create something with it, right? And it's very exciting for them. Some of them will really think through and come up with something. Some of them may need a little bit guidance and support from you to really arrive at that. Yeah. Okay. Durga says, my daughter is 3 years old. She does not like painting and making crafts. Tell me something so that she can do these activities at the time of lockdown. Yeah. So Durga, if she doesn't like, painting and craft and all of that, then I need to possibly understand a little bit about what she likes. So, for example, some kids like sounds, right? Because she's 3 years old. So it may be sounds that she likes. So then you can put in different things that make sounds into a box. Like what I mean is, if you wrinkle a chocolate paper and put it, it makes one kind of sound, right? If you put something like a small bell, if you it's a different sound. Or if it's newspaper, it's a different sound. So you can put all of these different elements into a box and ask her to pick out stuff. You can ask her to pick out stuff and say what is the sound that she's hearing. So just ask her to close her eyes. What is that sound? So it may be more auditory for them. So it depends, right? If she's not too much into art and craft kind of activities, or it could be something that she just wants to play, right? So create a game out of it. So, for example, a lot of parents I've seen also, they make what do you call it, treasure hunts, right? So you make a list of things that's available in different parts of the house, and maybe some of it can be that she has to complete a particular art activity or craft activity to actually get the next clue. So you make it a game to make it more interesting for her. Because at that point, it's like I want something as a quick reward or some encouragement, motivation that makes me do more of it. So you can try something like that. You can always chat with us on the Talking Canvas handles. You can message us and we can specifically give you some ideas for your child, because I'm not really sure what exactly is the context, right? So it'll be good if you can get in touch and we can do that. Any other questions that I can take at this point? Okay. I think, yeah, so those are largely the questions that I've got here and I've answered. So it's been an absolute pleasure being here and being part of this. So I'm sure a lot of you want to really explore art yourselves as parents, and I think it's really easy if you want to do it. It doesn't matter if it is just stick figures. It doesn't matter what it is, right? You can just try and break down things around your house into figures. Like for example, just a chair. How do you draw a chair? It's just simple. If you really start doing it, it becomes simple, and everything requires practice, right? Without practice, it can't really translate. So it may need a few times that you may have to encourage yourself and your child, but once they get the hang of it, it sort of continues and it becomes a practice. So yeah, so that's it from me. Do follow us on the Talking Canvas Insta or Facebook handles. It's the Talking Canvas, and do follow BabyChakra as well. Some really amazing stuff on it. So you will get lots of inputs. Thank you so much for your time. Happy to take any questions through the Talking Canvas handles. Bye bye.